Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear participants, we start in the name of Allah. On behalf of ISIP, International Students of Islamic Psychology, we are welcoming you here today for our first session with Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh, Introduction to Islamic Psychology. My name is Fatma Ahmed, and I'm joining you. I'm actually in the United States, but I live in Canada. I'm just here visiting with my family. This is part of a 5-part series. So today, every other Tuesday, we will be having our series with Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh. So thank you very much to the large interest that has been shown to join us with Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh. So we start in the name of Allah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and we'll start with the Fatiha, and we ask Allah for beneficial knowledge. We ask for your forgiveness for any of our shortcomings. And we pray that inshallah, that Allah puts tawfiq in our learning and making it our sincere in serving him and granting us knowledge and everything that will draw us closer towards him and towards gaining his rida. So with that, inshallah, we ask for us all to make a Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Okay. So before we get started, I wanted to just share with you all some of ISIP's, our mission statement and some of the activities that ISIP is inviting all of you to also be a part of this movement. So our mission statement to International Students for Islamic Psychology is that we are an inclusive space designed to connect people with diverse backgrounds interested in Islamic psychology. And when we say diverse backgrounds, just by the number of participants and the people here, you can see that we mean diversity in terms of we're global. We have people all the way from Australia to Canada. But we also mean diversity in our educational backgrounds. So a lot of people who are part of ISIP are people who just have interest. We have people who are doing their bachelor's or master's or PhDs. We have experienced clinicians. We have scholars as well. And in the sense of we're all students in that we're all seeking to improve our knowledge. So when we say diversity, we mean in all types of ages, educational, and of course, ethnicity. So ISIP aims to disseminate knowledge and share resources and discuss best practices in a free and accessible manner. ISIP is a platform to enable further development of people's personal and professional interests, studies, and understanding of Islamic psychology within their communities or their country of origin. Some of our core values at ISIP is that what we try and embody both online in all of our interactions. We have a strategic team of about 100 members. And what we're impressing upon in all of what we are doing is we're trying to hold to our core values, which is God consciousness, truthfulness, sidq, seeking of knowledge, talab al-ilm, wafa, loyalty, integrity, istiqama, companionship, sohbah, ihtiram, compassion, and service. So just so we can all get started today, some of the adab of the Zoom or the Zoom etiquettes that we'll be asking everyone to adhere to is to please keep yourselves on mute and to rename yourselves with the first name and the country so that the moderators and the speakers know how to address you in case we need to address you. So for example, you can put your name and your country. We do ask that there's no recording or screenshots. And as we said, this meeting is being recorded, so it will be available to people via our YouTube channel. And Brother Zubair or Sister Saima can put that link to our YouTube channel into the Zoom chat. So just as a reminder, we won't have any racist or inflammatory, derogatory comments. We pray that inshallah that we're all holding to the values of ihtiram and interacting in a way that is safe and adhering to our Islamic principles and ISIP's core principles as well. We do, if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat, and you might want to just, put questions so that when our moderators are looking for and compiling the questions, we can collect them. And during Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh's presentation, we won't have the questions, but we'll have an opportunity at the end. So we are very much invested in listening to your questions and having you have a chance to ask them to Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh. Just as a reminder, please don't make your personal recordings, and please don't take screenshots. At this time, I'm going to ask, so we have one interactive part, which I will ask you to participate in. So it'll just be a click. We have 2 polling questions where there's, it's asking you where you're from, and I will start that, and also a little bit of background so that we at ISIP and Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh can get a snapshot of who is here today and who is joining us today. So I'm going to launch this poll, and please feel free to answer. It would be wonderful if we can get everyone to answer. It's just a click. Okay, so there's, where are you joining us from today? And I am here today because I am, and then you can fill in what applies to you. So I will launch that poll right now, inshallah. So go ahead and please answer. Dr. Zubair, is it up?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, wonderful. I see 12 people answering. 20. Oh, wonderful. This is exciting. By the way, I don't see, it's all anonymous. So when the results come, I'll share the results with everyone here, but it will be anonymous. So you won't see particular people's names. MashaAllah, we have most of our participants joining from Africa so far. That is amazing. MashaAllah, we have 100 people who've answered this poll. That's amazing. Okay, I'll leave it up for about another 30 seconds. So if you haven't had a chance to vote and to share your result, we have almost 90% of people who have, so that's great. So maybe once we get to 90%, I'll close the polling and we can share the results. Maybe one more person and then we get to 90%. All right, we hit 90%. That is amazing. Okay, so we had 123 people answering, and here is our results. Wow, okay, we have 50%. Oh, let me share it. Brother Zubair, if you're able to capture this, that would be great. I'm gonna just share the results right now. Brother Zubair, are you able to see the results?
Yes.
Okay, Sister Saima, can you see the results? Okay, so we can see from North America, we have 10%. From South America, we have 2%. From Europe, we have 7%. From Africa, mashallah, we have 50% of our participants today are coming from Africa. From Asia, we have 28%. From the Middle East, we have 4%. And from Australia, it's not the right time zone, so I'm not surprised, it's 0. I am here today because, so 85% of our participants here, so that's all you, are interested in Islamic psychology. That is wonderful. We have 25% who enrolled in graduate studies in psychology. We have 6% enrolled or graduated from Islamic studies, and working in the field of mental health as a professional, we have 31%. So it kind of gives you a snapshot of who is here and the type of audience that ISIP is involved with. So we really thank you. At this time, I'm going to stop sharing these results. I'll actually just download it as well. Okay. Okay. Dr. Zubair, would you like to share in the Zoom chat? So just before we get started, ISIP has, we have a lot of initiatives that we're involved in. We have book clubs, we have support groups, and we have our resource sharing. And all of this has been kind of brought together through our WhatsApp groups. So Dr. Zubair will be sharing with you all. If you're not part of the Islamic psychology WhatsApp groups and you would like to become you would like to join that, then please feel free to go ahead and do that. I believe most of you are probably already part of the Islamic psychology groups, but if you're not, then Dr. Zubair will be sharing that in the chat. And if you would like to join, we have group 10, I believe, and if that gets filled, we're starting a group 11. In these groups, we have resource sharing. So this is where we're sharing our resources, and it's for people all over the world who have this interest, as you do, in Islamic psychology. We also have a website that is under construction, and inshallah, we will continue to be connected through further lectures and seminars and initiatives that ISIP is doing. And through our newsletter, if you become a member, inshallah, when we have our website up and you can become a member, we'll have a newsletter where ISIP members will know about this type of course and these types of gatherings that we're having. As mentioned, we already have some ongoing initiatives that we've started since January, such as book clubs, such as support groups, and such as networking between people who have this interest in Islamic psychology. Okay. So at this time, I would like to, it's my honor to introduce you all to Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh. So Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh is the former associate professor of psychology at the University of Imam Muhammad ibn Saud in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He is one of the renowned scholars in Islamic psychology in the Arabic world. He actually is giving this course in Arabic as well. So he's doing it for us in 2 languages, alhamdulillah. So we're very grateful and very honored, Dr. Abdullah, that you're giving up so much time to help spread this knowledge that many people are interested in. Dr. Abdullah is the author of papers and a book. The book is in Arabic, تمهيد في التأصيل رؤية في التأصيل الإسلامي للعلم النفس. So in Arabic, in English, that would be an introduction to Islamic psychology, a perspective on Islamic rooting or Islamic rooting of Islamic psychology. And that was a book that was first published in 1999. And the foreword is by Professor Malik Badri, who is, again, the pioneer in the modern day Islamic psychology, who's really made a revival, rahimahullah, may Allah bless him and may Allah increase him, and all of this may it be sadaqah jariyah, inshallah, for him. So we're very honored, Dr. Abdullah, that you're joining us here today. And without further delay, I would like to switch to your slides so that you can start, inshallah.
You want me to start now?
Yes, inshallah. I'm just going to share your screen. Sorry, I'm going to share my screen with your.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this great opportunity to speak to those who are interested in Islamic psychology or Islamization of psychology. And it is an honor for me to be in this position and talk about this subject. I want to thank ISP, International Students, for giving me this opportunity. I never imagined that I'll speak to the whole world through internet about the subject. And my imagination is to speak to just a few people in one room about, as I do usually in my teaching time, but to speak to the whole world and to this number is something, grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me shukr to this ni'mah. First, I have to remember those people who taught me Islamization of psychology, and I have to mention them and make dua for them. Islam taught us to respect our teachers, to pray for them, to remember them, and to be humble when we teach what we learn from them. Now it is time to pay their merit, and it is inappropriate for me to talk about Islamization of science or psychology and not to mention whom I learned from, nor to pray for them. Etiquette requires me to convince their effects and to pray for them. I learn Islamization from many, but the most are four prominent scholars who had major effects on me. And these are Muhammad Khair al-Arqasusi from Syria. He taught us in the undergraduate at Imam University, and he was one of Piaget students, and he was the first one to speak to us about Islamization and to talk to us about Islamic psychology. And I remember one day, and that is a long time ago, before 140, when 1980, before 1980, he said, probably you are among few people or the only people who speak and who talk and who hear something about Islam and psychology. The second one is Malik Badri. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him mercy. And he also taught me Islamic psychology in undergraduate level at Imam University. And Malik Badri did something great for me. He introduced to us Islamic psychology, and he also introduced me to the world of Islamic psychology through writing a muqaddimah or in my book Tamheed fi al-Ta'sil. And the third one is Ja'far Sheykh Idris, and he is a well-known, distinguished scholar in the Muslim world, and probably I haven't met anyone in his level expert in Islamization, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him health and rise him in his Jannah. The fourth one is Muhammad Qutb. Muhammad Qutb, I did not meet him as a student, but I learned from his book, from his books. And Muhammad Qutb is a leading figure in Islamic psychology. Probably he is the first one calling Muslim scholars to get out from Western paradigm and to establish Islamic theory and psychology. And that was in 1952. And that book was Al-Insan Bayn al-Madiyya wal-Islam. Now, I want to start with a point. Why is there a need for Islamization of psychology? This point was discussed, it seems to me discussed a lot, and those people who joined this lecture may not have problem with this question. And I am assuming those people past this stage and have grown convinced of the necessity of rooting or Islamization. But I want to mention three things briefly and quickly. First one, about the need to Islamization is the Muslim scholars' need for independent framework of knowledge, and in Muslim scholars' need for an independent framework of knowledge and the inability of Western paradigm to meet the need of researchers. Second thing, a criticism of psychology. Many people, many writers, many scholars criticize psychology, and this is something normal. To criticize any theory, to criticize psychology is something normal. It is not unusual. Unfortunately, in the Arabic world, it is unusual to criticize any theory or in psychology or sociology or. But it is a need to criticize any theory, and it is a need to teach our students the criticism or the critique of psychology. We want them to grow in big mind, to look in a wide spectrum, to think in ahead, and they cannot get into this stage without preparing for them to critique or to criticize psychology or the social sciences. The third one, science advances with the criticism. Science, any science, does not evolve and develop without criticism, without criticizing the theory, without trying to test the theories, test the concept. Without doing this such, our science, our psychology will not grow up, will not develop. What about now? I'll talk about the preliminaries paving the way for Islamization of psychology. Psychology was presented to the Arab world 70 years ago, or more than 70 years ago. And Muhammad Qutb, seems to me, is the first one to talk about this, and his book was published in 1952, as I said. But at that time, this call did not get a good response, and the call, the Muhammad Qutb calls went just in the air, and nobody, it seems to me, hear it. Just a few people. Why? Because of the time. One researcher tried to wrote a paper about a bibliography paper about the materials and addresses about Islamization in social sciences, in psychology, education, sociology, politics, and this was published before 1980. And all he could find is around 500 or less than 600 titles. Later, another writer get another list of titles of bibliography within just 5 or 10 years, from 1980 to I believe 1910 or 1987 or 1990, and he got more than 300 titles. So time affects any ideology or any idea to be accepted or not to be accepted. Any idea does not evolve without support from the environment, and the best support manifests itself in the social acceptance of the idea. Being right does not guarantee idea's success if its time has not come yet. This explains why some wrong ideas spread out in the society, why some other correct ideas fail. One can say the current time is supporting a specific idea if the dominating idea is failing or stumbling, and the new idea is meeting some of people's needs. The biggest marker of an idea when its time comes, and the greatest obstacle facing any idea and hindering it is that when its time has not come yet. Now, what are the variables and events work as preliminaries for Islamization and psychology and pave the road for it? First one, many contemporary theories fail or suffer of shortage. Many contemporary psychological theories fail or suffer of shortage, so researchers are forced to search for alternative theories or scenarios. Second, the position rejecting religion in psychology has receded For example, the American Psychological Association issued in 1996 a special book on the use of religions in psychological counseling and allocated in its annual conference a training workshop on this subject. In addition, the Psychological Encyclopedia issued by the American Psychological Association, APA, in 2000 made a place for psychology and Islam. So they took the role of Islamic psychology in a positive way. Third, the emergence of humanistic approach and positive psychology, which directs psychology to focus on normal behavior instead of abnormal, and then religion and religiosity. Fourth, al-fitra. Al-fitra is an Islamic concept, and it is built in each one of the human being, whether he's a Muslim or non-Muslim. The fitra, the innate fitra, motivate us to find the good and to find the right and to find the appropriate for us and to deviate from the wrong and from the ugliness or bad things. Islam court is witnessing a nature awareness, a mature awareness. Islam court is witnessing a mature awareness, a return to religion, and a pride in the Islamic identity. The Islamic court is witnessing a mature awareness, a return to religion, and a pride, and they are pride to be Muslims, and the pride for their identity. Western civilization, the sixth one, Western civilization is witnessing setbacks in its principles and failure to fulfill its promises. These are challenges facing values of justice, freedom, equality, and human dignity. For example, the rise of racism in Europe through right-wing parties, the collapse of the family, the domination of individualism over society, and the crushing of values of mercy. All these are refractions and defeats of Western values that preached by the philosophers of Western secularism. All these some factors pave the way for Islamization and make people in the social science to look for alternative, to look for Islamic concept, to look for their own sources, the Islamic sources, to find out an Islamic theory. Now let us move to the definition of Islamization of psychology. In the literature of Islamization of psychology movement, there are two known prominent terms. The first one is Islamization of psychology, or تأصيل الإسلامي لعلم النفس, and also the Islamic guidance of psychology. They are both has the same meaning. And the second term is Islamic psychology. And I am going to speak about these two things, about Islamization of psychology and Islamic psychology. I'm going to explain these two terms as I understood them. Many people think that these two terms has the same meaning, and I was among these people, and I said this in my book, Tamhid bit-Ta'sil. I said all the terms has the same meaning, but after teaching Islamic psychology and Islamization and being in the field for more than for almost 30 years or so, it seems to me each term has its own meaning. Let us start with the first one, Islamization of psychology or Islamic guidance. It is the entrance to Islamic psychology, which provides the researchers or the students of Islamic psychology with the Islamic background he needs in his specialization. And it is a grave mistake for some researchers to delve into Islamic psychology without completing its Islamic foundation. That is why you find some of them do more harm than they do good, and corrupt more than they can reconcile, and commit a great crime against Islam and Islamic Sharia by attributing to it what is not from it. Islamization of psychology in its relation to Islamic psychology is similar to the science of jurisprudence, usul al-fiqh, to jurisprudence al-fiqh. The jurist does not dispense with the principles as they are, the principles, the ones that control the curriculum and define its concept, as well as the Islamization of psychology that controls the student of Islamic psychology and his legal foundations and in his understanding of the Quran and Sunnah, and employing that in psychology. Psychology is a positive and not normative science, but Islamization of psychology is a normative science. Like research methods, they are normative sciences, and psychology is not a science of it violates research methods. And Islamic psychology is not a science if it violates Islamization of psychology and is not controlled by it. Islamization of psychology is the foundation stage for Islamic psychology. And we call it in Arabic التأسيس, مرحلة التأسيس. Among the issues that should be studied in the Islamization of psychology are establishing the Islamic paradigm for science. Without an Islamic paradigm, we cannot do anything, either in Islamizing psychology or Islamic sociology or education. Or we need an Islamic paradigm. We need to have our own paradigm. We need to have an independent paradigm instead of following the dominating paradigm and the Western psychology or Western social sciences. Employing Islamic methodology in studying the relationship between Islam and psychology and identifying areas of encounter and areas of conflict. Also identifying legal evidence, adilla sahiha, and employing them in extracting psychological theories and concepts from legitimate asset or resources. The researcher needs to know the sources of legalization and the significance of the legal evidence and its validity from Quran and Sunnah, and its sources and the fundamental legal rules govern Islamic Sharia, such as the principle in actions that are permissible, الأصل في الأفعال الإباحة, and principle in actions are permissible, and the principle in the matter that is obligatory, الأصل في الأمر الوجوب, and hardship brings facilitation, المشقة تجب التيسير, and Allah does not burden a soul beyond its capacity. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, and the purpose of the great Sharia, مقاصد الشريعة الكلية. These concepts must be known by students of Islamic psychology and the student of Islamization of psychology. If the students or the writer or the researcher does not know these things, how come he can Islamize something without knowing the Islam itself? What is meant by rooting is the relationship between the text of the Quran and Sunnah and theory in psychology. If a researcher needs to connect or needs to study the relationship between Quran and Sunnah from one side and the theories on psychology from one side. And it is very wrong to connect ayah and hadith with Western theory, because ayah and hadith are fact, and the theories something it is not fact, it is a theory, it is or something hypothesized or something
Man-made.
which another perspective. It is very wrong to make connection between ayah, which is haq and thabit, with something changing. We embroider today, but after a while we leave it to another thing. In my book, I have identified 4 components of the Islamic epistemology, which are knowledge, man, society, and existence. And inshallah, I'll talk about this later, inshallah, in the coming lectures. Because of the breach of authenticity, because of the breach of authenticity, breaking the authenticity, we saw some writers and researchers argue with weak or fabricated hadith that have no basis and link them to psychological theories. They neither corrected psychology nor protected the Sharia from the misguidance of psychological theories. Now I move to the second term, Islamic psychology. This branch, Islamic psychology of knowledge, studies the soul or studies the behavior. Islamization does not study the behavior. Islamization of psychology does not study the behavior. It lay the basis or lay the cornerstone for the researcher to build the theory or to build the Islamic psychology. The main goal of Islamic psychology is to find an Islamic psychological theory. And it can be defined as, Islamic psychology can be defined as building psychology according to the Islamic paradigm or the Islamic cognitive framework. The Islamic paradigm is the epistemological foundations or Islamic foundations that are established by Islamization of psychology. Islamic psychology is a constructive process or stage where we build Islamic theories, while Islamization of psychology is a foundation stage where we lay down an Islamic paradigm or cornerstones for Islamic psychology. Now I move to the misconception in Islamization and Islamic psychology. These misconceptions, we can find it in many writers who wrote about Islamization or Islamic psychology. I counted 6 misconceptions, and I present them one by one. First, presenting Western psychology in an Islamic image by researching the Islamic connotations of what support Western concepts, or presenting Western concepts in Islamic form so that individuals who are alienated from what is Western accept them. We found some people, some professors, some scholars, unfortunately, who present a theory or Freud or Maslow or anyone, and presented with some ayah or some hadith, and said this hadith is supporting what Freud said or what Maslow said or what Watson said. Or this is wrong. This is wrong. This is misleading the students, misleading people, and corrupting Sharia or Islam, and corrupting psychology. This behavior is wrong for two things. First, the disagreement between those concerned with the Islamic psychology and Western psychology is not in terms, but rather in the connotations of meaning. And if these connotations were true, the researchers wouldn't care about the term. The content is wrong. If the content is wrong, the term or the word will not help us, will be still wrong. Second, the disagreement is not in the particulars, juz'iyat, but rather in the fundamentals, kulliyat. And correcting the terms by borrowing Islamic terms does not make them sound, because the foundation upon which they are based is wrong. In addition to the fabrication in this approach, it does not establish an Islamic psychology. And its goal is to preserve what exists without presenting Islamic and Islamic alternatives. Second misconception, Islamic psychology is a heritage view. Some researchers think that Islamic psychology is to present the heritage of Muslim scholars and prove their precedence to some psychological theories and concepts. Some people may talk about Al-Ghazali, and some people may talk about Ibn Taymiyyah or Ibn al-Qayyim or Ibn Sina or Al-Farabi or Al-Mawardi or Harith al-Muhasibi, and say, here's the scholars of psychology in Islam. That's correct, but you are talking about heritage, about Islamic heritage. You are not talking about Islamic theory, about Islamic psychology. You are just talking about, you need to talk about this, you need to present their works, but if you stop at their works and you do not add to it, you are not presenting Islamic psychology. In fact, heritage is one of the tributaries of the Islamic psychology. It provides us with some concepts and perceptions, but it is not the ultimate goal of Islamic psychology. Rather, in the writing of some scholars of Muslim heritage, some psychological concept that Islam disavows, like the perception of some philosophers about psychological perfection. How are these perception and Islamic rooting of psychology? Al-Farabi in Al-Madinah Al-Fadila spoke about the concept of God and about the mind or aql, and make connection between them, something not Islamic against Islamic, and some people may bring these things as, or present these things as an Islamic psychology. This is wrong. This is a wrong perception, because psychology is like any science in which there is Islamic psychology is to reach the third misconception. Islamic psychology is to reject psychology entirely and to find an Islamic alternative. This is a wrong perception. Psychology is like any science in which there is right and wrong, and which should be rejected is only wrong. In addition, psychology during its nearly 150 years history has a rich heritage of experiment, practices, and scientific laboratory research, and has achieved multiple success in correcting some of the mistakes of its pioneers, as well as other success in modifying, interpreting, and predicting behavior. Whoever calls for rejecting psychology in its entirety on the pretext that is Western or that there are errors in it, he is mistaken. Nevertheless, if he intends to be independent in the customary perception and the foundation in which we build psychology and build Islamic theories based on the Islamic cognitive perception or paradigm, then this is correct. Fourth misconception, Islamic psychology is a study of some verses and hadith related to the soul or related to behavior or psychology. And they explain the meaning of ayah and explain the meaning of hadith and think that they are presenting Islamic psychology. And this is wrong. This is a lesson in hadith or sunnah and tafsir or explaining the Quran, but not building a theory. We need to build a theory, to build a science called Islamic psychology. Some researchers imagine that Islamic psychology is the presentation and explanation of some Quranic verses and some hadith related to the behavior or to the soul. In fact, this is not only good, but it is a must because it helps us in Islamization. But it is not building a theory nor psychology, rather from the science of interpretation, hadith, or Islamic culture. ثقافة إسلامية. Fifth, Islamic psychology is a preaching uprightness in the religion of Allah, performing acts of worship, repentance, and seeking forgiveness. And this is good, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to preach موعظة حسنة in da'wah. He said, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in a way that is best. Indeed, your Lord is most known of who has strayed from his way, and he is most known of who is rightly guided. In another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the Quran as a sermon or maw'idah, saying, this is a statement for the people, a guidance and admonition for the righteous. في آل عمران. Therefore, preaching is encouraged by Islam, and it is a method of teaching. Indeed, a psychologist inevitably benefits from preaching, and he can promote values among the beneficiaries through preaching. But preaching does not create psychological theories, which can explain, control, and predict behavior. 6, Islamic psychology is to take what agrees with our religion from psychological theories and leave what contradicts it. Choosing some Western psychological theories is not the establishment of an Islamic psychological theory. A speaker or a teacher come to a theory like, for example, Freud, and take one part and say this is okay, and remove one part about sex or about childhood, and say this is wrong, and we will delete it. But a theory is just like an engine. If you take parts of the engine, it will not work. And if you take parts of the theory, it will not work. And you are damaging the theory. And you are not presenting right psychology. So leave the Western theory as it is and start on your own theory. And start on your own theory. An Islamic independent theory. as well as choosing some Western psychological theories is not the establishment of an Islamic psychological theory as well as any psychological theory. We can choose, will remain linked to its philosophical origins in its perception of man and knowledge, which are perceptions that do not agree with our Islamic perception. Some people will say, what about if I take or neglect the wrong part of a theory and add to it some of my concept? This is okay. Now you are establishing a new theory. Whether it has some part of other theory, there is no problem. But to damage the theory and take part and leave it without adding, which let the theory run or work in predicting and in explaining and modifying behavior, this will not work properly. أقف عند هذا الحد ومعذرة وأعتذر. I'm not. This is the long speech I gave in English. I hope inshallah in the future I'll be much better. جزاكم الله خير وشكرا لاستماعكم. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
Barakallahu fikum, Dr. Abdullah Sharafna, yani, alhamdulillah, Allah atikum afia. Alhamdulillah, wa shukrullah. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. That's 30 years. And I really appreciated when you said that at the beginning of your journey, 30 years ago, the differences between Islamization and Islamic psychology were unclear. And I can say for myself, being at the beginning of my own journey, that I really appreciated hearing that. And that as we continue in our journeys to gain ilm in this field, we start to see where these definitions may be important to know, and where in our journeys, like I'm a master's student, but one of the reasons that ISIP was founded, one of the reasons that we wanted to get involved and spread this knowledge is because I'm also in the education field. I'm a teacher by profession. And I noticed after, 20 years, almost 20 years of being in the teaching profession, that we're just replicating certain paradigms. And without even knowing it, we're replicating paradigms that may even go against some of our Islamic principles. And I definitely didn't want to do that. So speaking from my own journey, I really appreciated, how you were trying to outline the differences. And when you said that, that all students and researchers should know the maqasid al-Sharia, that really, really resonated with me. And I feel that the maqasid al-Sharia, when we know the overall aims of our religion and of the Sharia, if we don't know that, then there can be lots of opportunities for mistakes that we'll be making in this field. I also appreciated when you said that relating hadith is not building a theory. And I think that's really important because we have a lot of people who are religiously, they have a lot of great Islamic sciences, very solid in their Islamic science, but just simply relating a hadith doesn't create a theory that will be usable basically in this field. So I really appreciated that. Those were some of my takeaway points as well. So alhamdulillah, thank you so much, Dr. Abdullah. At this time, I will invite our moderators, Dr. Zubair in Algeria, Sister Saima in India. If you're able to share with us, I'm going to stop sharing the screen actually, so that I can take a look as well. And if we have some questions, this would be a wonderful time for our participants to engage with Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh in some of the material that has been presented regarding definitions, regarding misconceptions of what Islamic psychology is. Okay, so there's a question here, Dr. Zub, and okay, so I can read the question from Brother Ahmed Mayet. So Dr. Abdullah, this question is from Brother Ahmed. It says, are we saying that Islamic psychology cannot only be studied by looking at the study of previous scholars, such as Imam al-Ghazali and his books like Ihya Ulumuddin, and rather we need to constantly adapt Islamic psychology for the modern era to understand modern humans?
Okay, Brother Ahmed, if you study Ghazali, is going to help you. And you need to study Ghazali to understand some concept and to understand and to be familiar with some Islamic concept, to be familiar with some ayah, some hadith. But if you stop at this stage, you are not performing an Islamic psychology. The Islamic psychology of Al-Ghazali is okay, but you need to work on your own time, your own problem, your own society, your own self, and establish an Islamic theory. And Islamic theory is not something untouched, and it's not something ma'soom or something muqaddas. It is وجهة نظر, a point of view, something you can add, something you can modify, something you can develop, something you can also reject. It is an ijtihad in Islam. Yes.
Brother Ahmed, would you like any clarification on what Dr. Abdullah has provided, or is that, does that help answer your question? Feel free to continue in the chat or with a follow-up. Oh, okay, says, Jazakallah khairan for the answer. It's perfectly clear. So thank you, Dr. Abdullah. Brother Ahmed has responded. There's a question, there's some feedback from Sister Sumaya in South Africa. She said, as a practicing psychologist, I appreciate the distinction and emphasis on the distinction, as it is crucial going forward in creating a theory in Islamic psychology. So thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan, Sister Sumaya. At this time, if there are other participants who would like to please add their questions. Zarina Mohammed. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. The points presented by Dr. Abdullah actually enlightened my long-time contemplation. I'm sorry, just lost that. Whereby I was a little confused with my readings about the effort to Islamicize the field of Islamic psychology. So a little bit of feedback from Sister Zarina. Thank you very much. Hannah from India shares with us, the session was insightful, Jazakallah khairan. I'm a student of advanced Islamic science. I could relate to a lot of things that the speaker has said in correlation to Sharia and fiqh. Yes, and I really appreciated that as well, you know, that having usul al-fiqh and fiqh as kind of how we can look at Islamization and the approaches, so that we need to know the principles. You know, the faqih can't really make their rulings unless they know usul al-fiqh. And so I really appreciated that as well. So thank you, Sister Hannah in India. There's a question that Sister Hannah asks. How can students of knowledge learn more in depth in Islamic psychology? What could be the starting point? And how can one learn in a structured method? Dr. Abdullah?
Wallahi, this is long. The answer is very long, and you have to start from the beginning. You have to learn Islam. You have to study. You have to be familiar with the sources, the Islamic sources, the Quran and Sunnah, the meaning of ayah. You have to know the Arabic meaning of word in Quran and Sunnah, to be familiar with Hadith, to be familiar with the Quran. And you have to study usul fiqh. at least some part of it. You have to study القواعد الفقهية. You need to study. You need to study also the عقيدة, the علم العقيدة, because you are dealing with some philosophical concepts, and you may get astray without knowing you are straight. You have to work. If anybody asks you, I want to be expert in social psychology, what should I do? Or to be expert in counseling, what should I do? You will tell them, go and learn. So that I tell you, go and learn Islamic Sharia, Islamic, all these you need to study. No.
Sister Fatima.
Yes, go ahead, Brother Sabeeh.
Yes, we have a question from Sister Saima. She said, Dr. Abdullah beautifully highlights the importance of protecting the Islamic image by not blending with them with Western psychology. A lot of Muslim psychologists relate the different types of nafs to Freudian stages. By doing so, are we corrupting the Sharia?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
She said that a lot of psychologists are blending Islamic image with Western psychology. She said that a lot of psychologists relate the different types of nafs to Freudian stages. By doing so, are we corrupting the Sharia?
Yes. You are presenting the Islamic concepts in wrong way. Now, psychoanalysis and psychoanalysis, the scholars in psychoanalysis rejected some Freudian concepts. Are we going to reject some Islamic concepts that related to Freudian concepts? Of course not. But because some people connected between these two concepts, students may have doubt either in Islamic Sharia or in Islamic or in psychology. And I explained this and discussed it in my book Tamhid fi Ta'sil in a very lengthy way.
Thank you, Dr. Sabeeh. Second question is what would be an example of Islamization of psychology and an example of Islamic psychology? Could you explain?
What example? What the voice here is that.
What would be? Give us an example of Islamization of psychology and an example of what is the difference between Islamization of psychology and Islamic psychology.
An example.
An example.
Okay. Some concept presented by Malik Badri, I consider it in Islamic psychology. He talked about some applications and some concepts and some theories. You can find it in the literature of Malik Badri, rahimahullah. About Islamization, I think my book is an example of Islamization of psychology. The book of Zamilna, my colleague, Dr. Salih al-Sani', Madkhal, Introductory to Islamic Psychology, is an example of Islamization. I think also Malik Badri wrote a paper about Islamization in English. we can find, and here I found in English some papers about the definition of self, about personality, about all these. I consider it as an Islamic psychology. But whether it is right or wrong, this is something else. But it is in this area.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. The last question is: how do we deal to or how do we respond to psychology theories that contradict the Sharia? What should be our position?
How we respond to
Psychology theory that contradict the Sharia.
Theories contradict.
Yes, contradicting the Sharia. What should be our position?
No. There are many things contradicting Sharia. It is just leave them and establish your theory. This is, don't say now I am going to correct this Maslow theory or Freud theory or Watson theory. It is not responsibility to try to correct these theories. Just leave them. As any wrong theory or any shortage or any theory has some sort shortage, just leave them and work on your theory. Of course, it is appropriate to tell your students the misconception and the theory or the contradiction between the theory and Sharia. It is good to tell your students, but your responsibility and your duty is not to say I'm going to correct the theory. No, because you are not correcting the theory. No.
Okay. There is a question and a comment from Sister Sarah. She said Islamic psychology is not to be limited to serving Muslims who have variability within group based on level of religiosity or desire to receive Islamic psychology informed treatment intervention. Please share what would you advise or highlight to resolve the dilemma of clinical practices based on Sharia. The treatment plans. Yes, this is the first part of the question.
This is good a question, and I agree with the sister. Islamic psychology is not for Muslims only. Quran did not come for Muslims only. Anyone can learn from Quran. Anyone can get hidayah from Quran. And Islamic psychology, for me, can work with Muslims and non-Muslims. But if we have misconception about Islamic psychology, then we will not work with non-Muslim. If we say we have to make maw'idah, we have to tell people to repent, make tawbah, to perform salat, then we are abiding us by Muslims only, and this is wrong. Yes, if he's a Muslim, we'll tell him, but Islam study the nafs and self as it is in its natural way, and we have to know the fitrah and work on the fitrah. Fitrah, inshallah, I'll talk about fitrah and about nafs, inshallah, later. But without knowing this, we cannot get into non-Muslims. I'll speak about this, inshallah, later.
Yes, Jazakallah khair. Sister Sarah is continuing with interesting questions. She said, we know that in Western psychology, no judgment, and we need to meet the clients where they are is part, no judgment, and meet the clients where they are is part of professional ethics. Do we need an Islamic psychology code of ethics and treatment planning from Sharia perspective? Then both the practitioner and the client must already have this understood. Please share your insight to this aspect Jazakallah khair.
I did not get that question.
Yes, she said that do we need in Islamic psychology code of ethics and treatment planning from Sharia's perspective?
Oh, okay. Suppose I'm not a psychologist. I am an imam in masjid. And one man came to me, or one lady came to me and convinced to me that he did something wrong. I'm going to turn him away, and I said, you are such and such and such. No, I have to work with him to get him out of this wrongdoing. Same thing a psychologist must do. You have to help people. It is wrong to think that a psychologist or a counselor must agree or with the behavior done by his client. No, but you do not blame him. You do not criticize him for what he is doing. Just you discuss with it. You try to help him to get it out from the wrongdoing. I hope I explain it clearly.
Thank you. Mariam is asking, Assalamu alaikum, just following on the question of Hannah, is there a specific content within the Islamic sciences that pertains specifically to psychology, or do we have to have broad knowledge on Sharia? I repeat the question.
Repeat again, please.
Is there specific content within the Islamic sciences that pertain specifically to psychology, or do we have to have broad knowledge on Sharia?
You have to have broad knowledge of Sharia, of course. Until now, I don't know if there is enough, or you have to study Sharia. You have to.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Yes, Zainab from USA is asking, how can students of knowledge learn more in depth of Islamic psychology? What could be the starting point, and how can one learn in a structured method?
Dr. Sabeeh, I think we did that one.
We did that one, okay.
There's a question. There's a question by Brother Ahmed. He the translation of the word psychology to ilm an-nafs, i.e. the knowledge of the soul. Is that a correct translation? And if that is correct, then are we to say that Islamic psychology or Islamic psychologists seek to treat the soul? And would we not say that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can treat the soul? So shall I repeat that, Dr. Abdullah?
He's asking about the soul and psychology. And as I understood the question, is it appropriate? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. In psychology, either in Islamic psychology and Western psychology, we do not study or investigate the reality of soul, حقيقة الروح. We study the behavior.
Okay.
We study the apparent behavior or the apparent characters or attributes. We are not going deep about the reality of things. studying or talk about the essence or the reality or حقيقة الشيء is a philosophical concept, but the scholars lift it away and direct their research about the behavior and about something they can see it, not something they can conceptuate about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sabeeh. There's a question: how would non-Muslim clients, non-Muslim, understand the interventions if it is not relative to them?
Would you please repeat the question? I did not.
How would non-Muslim clients understand the interventions if it is not relative to them?
Interventions, I assume here, meaning using Islamic psychology with non-Muslims?
Yes, it's that.
It is a responsibility of the counselor or the psychologist to come down and explain this meaning to the client. This is one thing. Second thing, it is not the client is not required to practice Islamic ibadah or because he's non-Muslim, and it is the responsibility for the psychologist to transfer the meaning or to do some methodology for the client and to correct his behavior without need to practice an Islamic ibadah or aqidah or like medicine. You can't treat the person without changing his aqidah. Also, you can treat the self or change the behavior without changing the aqidah. You have to know the fitrah. Fitrah Islamic concept. If you study it very well, you can move the client from many things, from many bad things he's doing, because anything is not good is against his fitrah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sabeeh. Omar is asking, my question is, how do you relate Islamic psychology to the purification of the heart?
To the purification of the heart?
Of the heart, yes, a relation between Islamic psychology and the purification of the heart.
You are speaking about purification of the heart is required by Muslim, and I don't know if the psychologist will go and go deep in the heart and the niyyah, and seems he will go beyond his ability, and I don't advise to go beyond to go deep in this area.
Yes, go ahead, Sister Fatima. Well, another question. From Sakina, yes, Assalamu alaikum. Do we presently have diagnostic or assessments for foundational Islamic framework, such as Wala wal Bara, and its distinct features, love, nearness, aiding and assisting, or disease of the heart, assessing for the presence of hasad, anger, lust, etc. Is there an existing database or theories?
Would you please repeat that question?
She asked about diagnosis or assessment from Islamic perspective and integrating things like
Why he's asking about agnostic? He's asking. She's asking about agnostic, right?
Yes, or assessments.
Agnostic.
Diagnosis.
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 And
Diagnosis. These to get rid of hasad and to get rid of envy or something like that, is something common between Muslims and non-Muslims. Even if you go to non-Muslim psychologist, and he found that you had hasad or envy or anger, or he will try to treat you to get rid of this. It is not only abide by Islam. No, it is anyone can, and anyone who understands his work can do that. Islam, being a Muslim or not Muslim, did not stop you from helping this person or the client to get out of these, they call it the sickness of heart. No.
Sister Fatima, you can ask. Yes, Zainab is asking from USA, is asking, do you think that the no-opening and no-spread of psychology at the Muslim society at the time of Muhammad Qutb is due to how the West used it and what it caused them of disbelief? So they treated it the same way they treated philosophy and ilm al-kalam.
The voice, really, I cannot hear it.
Sister Fatima, can you
read the?
Yes.
Can you read the question, Sister Fatima?
Yes, I will read it again, inshallah. This is the one from Sister Zainab.
USA, yes.
USA. Do you think that the non-opening and non-spread of psychology in the Muslim society at the time of Muhammad Qutb is due to how the West used it and what it caused them of disbelief? So they treated it the same way that they treated philosophy, ilm al-kalam. Like that Islamic psychology, Sister Zainab, if you're here, please you can correct me. But basically, that at the time of Muhammad Qutb, that the psychology didn't spread as well because of the way that the West used it and the way that the West treated it, the same way that they treated philosophy.
Yeah, during 70 years ago, the Muslim scholars were almost Westerners in their mind. and they were students of Freud and Watson and or Suluki or psychoanalysis or and Muslim world suffer of hazima, of defeat at that time, and still, but now we are facing or we are witnessing a mature growth, mature return to Islam, and it is different from our situation 70 years ago. We hope, inshallah, now we are witnessing a return, and we are witnessing a development of Islamization movement and social sciences. We hope, inshallah, our situation will be much better than it was 70 years ago.
Yeah, there is a question from, do you hear me, Dr. Sabeeh?
Yes, sometimes I don't know, there is a problem, but now I hear you.
Yes, Sister Sumia is asking, there are hundreds of theories in psychology. We are free to choose theories that resonate closely with our Islamic values and establish our own theory from which will arise our clinical tools to accomplish our goals, also defined by our Islamic theory. She said that we can choose from Western theories that resonate or that are close to our Islamic values.
I said in the lecture, yes, some lectures, some theories totally against our religion, and invite people to be away from religion. And some other theories try to be neutral, but still, all the theories are not in harmony with the Islamic values and with the Islamic aqidah and with the Islamic. You have to be aware of that, and you have to be aware. And we have to work on our theory, our framework, our paradigm. We should not give up. We should not give up. Now.
Barakallahu fikum, Dr. Abdullah. We do have a few more questions, but I'm just mindful of the time. And so I want to let our dear participants know that we have collected your questions and we will save them. And alhamdulillah, we have the opportunity again in 2 weeks. So that will be August 17th, that Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh will join us again. And hopefully you all will join us again for session 2. And any of the questions, we will try our absolute best that any of the questions that were unable to be answered here today, that we can collect them and we can start off next session, perhaps with a few of these questions, with your permission, if that is okay, inshallah. So, Barakallahu fikum, Dr. Zubair and Sister Saima and the team at ISIP that has made this possible. It's been shared in the chat, the feedback form. We would really, really appreciate it if you can just take a few minutes and fill out that form. We will be sharing this form at each session. I think somebody had asked, can I wait for the whole all of the 5? But we know that some people are sometimes joining some of the sessions and maybe unable. So we'll be providing this feedback form each time. So regarding the WhatsApp groups, Brother Zubair has put that into the chat. And those WhatsApp groups, again, are an opportunity for people to join the Islamic psychology WhatsApp resource sharing. That's where a lot of our articles, links to videos We also do have a digital library that for the last 8 months, we've had volunteers at ISIP working on organizing all of those resources. And we're very, very excited to be able to share that with the entire Ummah. That is coming up soon. As soon as our website is available, you will be able to become a member at ISIP, and you will have access to over 800 resources that we have as a team sorted, organized, tagged, relevant to Islamic psychology. So I wanted to just put that out there, that ISIP does have a digital library dedicated to resources in Islamic psychology, and that will be available to the public, inshallah, as soon as you become a member of ISIP, which will be through our website. In the meanwhile, Brother Dr. Zubair has shared in the chat WhatsApp groups links, so that if you are already not a part of the Islamic psychology WhatsApp groups, then you may do so. We know that some people may have joined through other mediums or through a friend or something like that. So thank you so much to Dr. Zubair for providing those links. So Jazakallah khairan, barakallahu fikum. We really, really appreciate everybody's time here. We apologize and we ask for your forgiveness. We know that, this was the first time in a very large gathering. So we apologize that we started a little bit late, and inshallah next time we'll have that all smoothed out. And if you encountered any difficulties, please forgive us. We're trying our best, and we ask for your du'as and we ask for your forgiveness, inshallah. So at this time, I'm just going to take a very quick look at the chat. So Jazakallah khairan. I hope inshallah that you found some benefit. And I do want to remind people that we will have this recording up, inshallah, within a week. So before our next session, we will have this available for you to review, or if other people weren't able to join. And we had, like I said, we had over 600 people register. So this will be available. We know that there's a strong interest. At this time, I would kindly ask Dr. Abdullah Sabeeh to end with us with Surah Al-Asr and with a dua.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Thank you for you all. Jazakallah khair, barakallah feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you with Jannah. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our little effort and to give us our shortening. والعصر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.